In the last video, we talked about relationships and specifically user relationships. And this was allowing for the foundation of this video, where we're going to start to look at how we can add additional relationships for users. In this video, we're going to look at how we can assign an Active Directory manager when creating a new Active Directory user. So specifically what I'm referring to is when we create our new users, we have the option of setting a manager, and we want to set that manager in Active Directory from something that's been selected in the service portal. So this is going to seem easy to start with, but unfortunately there's some hidden issues that we'll need to deal with. So we go back to our service request and go to our service offering and find our create user service offering. So far we've got username, first name, surname. So the next thing we're going to do is select manager. And it's required. Now we need to select a manager. The manager has to be someone who's already in Active Directory. So we're going to ask our end user to select the manager from a list of users already in Active Directory. Now, because we've set up the sync already between Service Manager and Active Directory, everyone that's in Active Directory has been brought into the users and groups domain configuration item. So what we can use is a query result, and the query result allows you to query a configuration item for an item that you're going to select within this service request. So now we need to configure which configuration item we're going to select from. So we select configure. Now I'm going to cover configuration items in a little bit more depth in an up and coming video. But we select the configuration item. We can apply criteria to this specific configuration item. So we could say that whether it's in a particular domain or any of these kind of attributes, we can lock it down to. For the moment, I'm going to just leave it as it is. And then the display columns that will show up in the service portal is just going to be the display name. And this is now where it gets a bit complicated. First of all, we don't allow the selection of multiple objects, because in this instance you can only assign one manager to an Active Directory object. What we've got here is how are we going to be able to pick up the person who has been selected in this configuration item in Orchestrator. Now what we can do here is we can add the user selected object to the template and object as a related item. So we can add it as a related item to the new service request AD user, or we can add it to any of the activities. But for the moment, we're just going to stick to adding it directly to the service request class that we've created. We'll select OK. So now we come to mappings. If we come down to our service request AD user, we can see that we've still got our username, surname, first name mapped to the properties that we created in our extended service request management pack earlier on. Now we're not mapping the user that we're going to select to any property within the service request, because we've already configured it to add it as a relationship. And we can OK this. Create new user. Let's do test 67. 1. Test 3. Right, we come down to our manager, we hit refresh. We will now get a list of all the Active Directory users on the system. So we're going to say this person is going to be the manager. I'm going to hit submit. And that's now been created. So we've created our service request and we've now been able to add a manager. The question is, how does this affect our Orchestrator setup? So what we need to do is have a quick look at how we're going to be able to extract that specific user that we've added in the portal within Orchestrator. So the easiest thing to do will be to run this under the runbook tester, and so we can see exactly what's happening. We can have a look at our relationships, and we can see that there are 3 relationships that have been brought back. And if we have a look at our related relationship class, we can see we have got the created by and the affected user, but you'll see this new one here, and it is related to configuration item. And this particular relationship is what's been created by the service portal to allow us to extract out the user. So to get this particular user, what we need to do is create a filter. So what we can do in our main portal here is we're now going to want to extract the manager. So we're going to call this manager. We're going to delete this part. So what we're going to do is we're going to alter the link here, and we're going to restrict it, saying that we only want to bring back the user that has been added as a related configuration item. So if we now test this in our runbook tester, and we look at the manager, we can see the manager that we selected from within the portal has now been exposed in this object here. So now we've set our link up, we can see that this object here is now going to retrieve the Active Directory or the username that's been sent through. What we now need to do is retrieve that object as an Active Directory object, so we can then pass that Active Directory object through to create user. So what we're going to do is, under our Active Directory integration pack, we're going to find get user. And this is going to get the user in the contents of Active Directory. So we detach that and select it to. And that's because when we create a user and we want to use the manager, we need to pass in a distinguished name. Now the distinguished name is not stored within Service Manager. So what we're going to do to start with is we are going to connect to our Active Directory, and we're going to add a filter on here, and we're going to say where username equals what's been sent from the manager as a username. And then what we can do under our create user object is, under our manager, we can now go to our get user object and find distinguished name and select finish. So we come over to Active Directory and find our test user, and if we look at organization, click on it, we can see that we've been able to set the manager to what was selected in the service portal. So to recap what's actually happened here, we've sent through the service request, GUID ID. Service request has been loaded into Orchestrator, so we have full access to it. We've asked it to identify every relationship that relates to a user. That relationship has brought across 3 entities. One is who created it, who is the affected user, which is the same person who created it, and the special relationship that was created, which is a configuration item. We use the link here to extract out the related configuration item only, and then we used a configuration item object here to retrieve that configuration item from Service Manager. But because when we wanted to create our Active Directory user using the Active Directory integration pack, we had to pass in a distinguished name of the Active Directory user we want to add as a manager, and that information wasn't stored within service manager's configuration item, what we had to do is we had to use an object here to get that Active Directory user. By using the username that was stored in Active Directory, we were able to retrieve here from the SAM account the username, and that gave us lots and lots of properties that were available to us from our get user. So these are much more Active Directory related objects, and we'll be able to get the distinguished name and able to pass that through as a manager. And so this works fine. But what we're now going to have a look at is the problems that arise if we need to add more than one user type field in the portal. So for instance, we've now added the manager, but so we now wanted to add a PA in the portal so that we can go and set the calendar permissions, for instance, once we've created a mailbox for this user, and how we're going to tackle that as a problem. So I'm back over in our request offering, and what we can do is we want to add another query lookup so that we can select a PA. So we're going to go to configuration item, and we can go to prompts. We're going to add our PA. It's going to be another kind of query lookup. So we've got our PA here. This is going to be our Active Directory user group. Display options, add. So again, we're going to add it to the service request and select OK. Okay, so we just come back to the service portal, and this portal looks very different to a few moments ago. And the reason for this is before I was using the Microsoft's brand new HTML5 all improved portal. But it turns out while I've been doing these videos, I've discovered a significant number of bugs, and unfortunately those bugs meant that I was unable to complete the videos because it wouldn't work the way it was meant to. So for the moment I've had to revert back to the old portal to complete the videos, but I would hope, or I've been advised, that there's going to be fixes to the new portal for the 10th of October, and it is an improvement if it worked. So for all intents and purposes, the functionality of the old portal is exactly the same. The only difference is it runs in Silverlight and there's a few more screens to click, but it does exactly the same. So we come to our AD task and create a new AD user. Okay, so we've got our test new user, and we've got our manager, so we can select our manager there. And now we've also got our PA, and we select our PA. It's a slightly different user, and we submit. So in this service request, we've selected our manager and we've selected now a PA, and the PA is going to be used to grant access to the mailbox. Okay, so it's finished running, but if we look, we can see we've now got 2 manager objects and 2 get user objects and 2 create user objects, which is not what we were expecting. So let's go and have a look at what's going on. If we take the runbook tester, now, if we have a look at our relationship, so our get relationship here, and get our related classes, we can see that we have got 2 related configuration items. Now this poses a bit of a problem. When we, back in the service offering, added our PA, we added the object to the service request. When we had just one manager, we were able to filter out the assigned user, created user, closed user, because there was this added configuration item 1, and we filtered that out. We come back to here, we can see we filtered that out, if you remember, here. So it does not equal is related configuration item. Now the problem we got is that when we add the PA, we're doing the same thing. We're creating it as a configuration item. So there is no way within Orchestrator to extract which of the users you're sending through relate to what process. So we don't know. All we've got is there's 2 users that have been passed through. There's going to be user 1 and user 2. We have no idea of knowing which one's a manager and which one's a PA. Now, like everything in with System Center, there's a number of ways to solve this. The perfect and ideal way would be when we are creating the management pack, we can create relationships. So we could create relationship manager and relationship PA, and in an ideal world, that would be exactly the best way to do it. However, to map within the service portal specific query requests to those properties, we need to alter the XML of the management pack. Now itself, this isn't difficult, and I've done it many times and was going to recommend it for here. But the problem is when we alter the XML of the management pack, we need to re-import it back into Service Manager. That's absolutely fine. But if we make any changes whatsoever to the request offering, i.e. this screen here, it's going to overwrite our XML file, and we have to go back and edit it each time. And in reality, that's not practical, especially as we're in this video, we're building out to a big solution. It's just not practical. So one way to get around this problem, if we've only got two kind of user selected fields, is to select this here. I'm going to add the object as an affected configuration item. So if we select OK here and OK, just gonna run the portal again. Okay, AD task. Okay, if we come back to our orchestrator, orchestrator here. If we come back, we can see that everything has been successful. So if we just run this in the older analyzer, okay, and we get the relationship, and we do related classes. What we can see here is that we have got the relationship of configuration item and his related configuration item. So if we have only two user fields that we need to select, then this is perfect. We can come fudge it around. And of course, so if we now wanted to take advantage of that, what we would do is we would create this as the PA.
Relationship.
Okay, so we want to extract the PA. So here we would add the filter. So where we say a related class does not equal about configuration item. So this will get the PA object there. And of course, we can extract then that user as an Active Directory user by getting the PA's user account. And then we can go off and do stuff with Exchange, which we will do in a minute. Okay, I've just come back because I made some slight mistake here. This link should be relationship class. I selected related class, which is why it wasn't working. So if we now run this in the runbook tester, right, we can now see that we have been able to get our manager and our PA. So we look here under our manager, we will see there was our test user that we selected and our PA, our test 59. So now we're able to break out a minimum or maximum of two users.